Maine lost an esteemed member of its greatest generation today. Brewer native and friend of WABI, Ed Hendrickson, died this morning at 104 years old. We're told Hendrickson passed away peacefully after a short illness with his family by his side. He frequently shared his exploits with WABI, so we wanted to take a look back to 2020, when the Navy veteran and World War II dive bomb pilot spoke with Brittany McCatton about his time in the service of our country.
I always knew I wanted to fly, because I can remember that from when I was a little kid.
Ed Hendrickson's love of aviation really took off in college.
I went to Wentworth Institute in Boston and took up pattern making. One of the first things I made was a propeller for an aeroplane. That was a part of my knowing that I wanted to fly.
In 1942, he got his chance, leaving Wentworth to enlist in the Navy. While he soon had the flying part down, it was the landing that took some practice.
On my very first try, my wheel hit the carrier deck, and I flopped right upside down. This was in Lake Michigan. I had a job to get out. I had to kick and thrash, and finally after I got out and they come and pick me up, the captain of the ship at that time said, "This is a hell of a time to go swimming."
In 1990, nearly 50 years later, the airplane was recovered and restored.
He didn't talk about the war for a long time, because as kids I can remember getting in the attic and getting in his uniforms and stuff, and we were always told to stay out of the stuff and don't ever go near it. They pulled his plane up out of Lake Michigan. Then he started talking about it, telling stories. As he met more of his buddies from the aircraft carrier, he talked even more.
Hendrickson's SBD-3 Dauntless dive bomber is now on display at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans.
I'd seen it a couple of times. I did quite a number.
It was Hendrickson's last faulty landing, and a lesson he'd need almost a year to the day later.
Allied squadrons take the air.
I think it was flying near Manila somewhere, Philippines, and I was hit with some anti-aircraft, and a bunch of bullets hit me. And they put a hole around my wing right where the landing gear was. If I landed in the water then, why, I'd be captured. And I didn't want that.
He made it back to the ship safely. It wasn't the only incident that got Hendrickson's heart pumping that week. It wound up being the most memorable of his time in service.
We had to take turns on anti-submarine patrol, and I happened to be picked that day. And I spotted a Japanese plane up in the air, and there were no Japanese planes around there. At least there weren't supposed to be. So I did all the little things I had to do to get ready, and got my gun all charged and ready. And then I finally caught up to the plane, and I shot it down. It was one of those days, either in between or after a day I just was frightened, and that was the only time I was ever frightened in the war.
Though it took some time, Hendrickson now fully embraces life as a veteran. He never misses marching in a parade.
Those words ringing true up to just a few weeks ago, when WABI attends a parade honoring veterans. First order of business is to find Ed. That's what we did this past Memorial Day.
I think it's great. I don't know what else you can say. It's a nice day, and it's a nice day to march. I enjoyed this. In fact, I'd do it any time I could.
If you'd like to honor Hendrickson's memory, you can do so by making a donation to Ed for pets at the Bangor Humane Society.